hunting down this little Jesus, the little baby, and they ending up slaughtering all the baby boys just because of the fear. He is the king. This little boy who has been born, he is scared, and he decides to kill all the boys. That was Bethlehem. And so the sin of poor leadership continues, and it's not new. It's historical, and so we continue to grapple with this sin. And so I looked at our context and our reality and I said, since the word of God says, where there is no vision, people perish. I said, so we have been casting the vision in the past 25 years, now going to 30 years, be the political vision, be the social vision, be economic visions, but also be the faith, the theological and the spiritual vision. And so where do we go from here? So that was my interest. And that was my interest. And this book have 4 contributors on leadership. So that tells you that leadership matters. Leadership is important. Without leadership, you can't reinvent theology. So the theology is being invented by the pastors of the church, by the leaders of the church. And as a cardinal, I'm glad he made a call to start a school of theology. So that's reinventing the church. That's reinventing the theology. So it's leaders who invent the country. It's leaders who invented the church. And I make the case in my chapter. You can read it. It's from page 314 to 28. And I'm returning to the wisdom of the church fathers and the church documents, but also going to the secular documents. And a couple of people who have focused on leadership that have made a strong case. John Maxwell says anything and everything rises and falls on leadership. At all levels, grassroots, middle, and top. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And so the theology, there you go, that's your theology. So we failed the genocide. You can't talk of the genocide without leadership. And you can't talk about post-genocide without leadership. And so the leadership is at the foundation, at the core of the genocide and the post-genocide. And the new dreams of new theologies that we are engaging and the new conversations that we are engaging. And so Mark Barnes, James says leaders come to correct the abuses of other leaders. And so the word of God would call us, how long shall we continue to suffer? How long shall we continue to suffer? And Nelson Mandela, in his wisdom, says you need a good heart and a good mind and a good head to have a formidable combination for a good leader. How are we doing with our hearts? How are we doing with our minds? And so if God created everything and that he saw that it was beautiful, returning to Genesis 1:31, and he goes and he says there is nothing new under the sun, so where do we reinvent theology then from? So he created us and he saw that we were beautiful. And so where do we go from there? And there is nothing new under the sun. So where do we go? So pretty much we return home to the leadership. We return home because every leadership comes from God. And so Jesus
is going to take some questions.
Yes, sir. I'm concluding. So Jesus is our role model par excellence when you talk about the leadership. And so in my chapter I discuss the qualities, the characters, the types of leadership we need. But at the end of the day, when I'm making my conclusion, it's pretty much you return to Jesus. So a good shepherd. The shepherd who sacrifices himself for the sheep. And so if you want to reinvent a theology, there you go. That's where you begin with the leadership. So I'm glad, I hope the new theologians we are training will be in that space. And as we continue to reinvent the country in many ways, so we reinvent because of leadership. And so my conclusion is become a good leader. And if you can't become a good leader, at least become a good follower. Thank you so much.
Barakoze ba Padiri watugejejeho ibyo banditse mu gitabo, mwasubira mu myanya yanyu.